question is, what are common marketing mistakes people make? What are common marketing mistakes people make? So there are three main common marketing mistakes people make. Number one is not having a plan. And so a plan, what that looks like is, first, you've got to have an objective. What is your objective with your marketing? Is it to get more website visitors? Is it to get more leads? And then also quantify how much. How much do you want to generate? And afterwards, it's key results. So adding key results, meaning what are ways that, or strategies or methods that you can use to help you reach that objective. So let's say you want to generate leads as your objective. Key results might be something like, hey, I'm going to do email marketing, cold email marketing, and I'm going to send out 100 emails per week, something like that. Or, hey, I want to use LinkedIn marketing. I'm going to send out 100 LinkedIn messages per week. And so that's what a key result would look like. So that's the first common mistake. The second common mistake is not being consistent. And so consistency, almost like working out. If you want to work out and one week you go and then you kind of don't go for a few weeks and you show up again and you kind of do your thing. And then a few weeks later, you kind of show up. You're not going to get consistent results. You're going to get very inconsistent results. So same thing with marketing. If you want marketing to work for you, you have to have a plan, but you also got to be consistent on executing that plan. So that's another place where people fall short, is not being consistent. And then the third thing I see is not putting out enough volume. And so what I mean by that is, let's say someone wants to improve their social media marketing. They might put out one post per month or one post per week or one post a couple of days. And so what that does is it actually ties into not being consistent, but it's not putting enough volume to where it's actually going to generate results. And so, it's the more you put out there, the more results you're going to get. And so a lot of people need to increase the quantity. Now, quality is still important and you shouldn't jeopardize the quality, but don't use quality as an excuse for not putting out quantity. So that's another mistake people make. All right, another question that I'm getting is how to get in front of decision makers. How do you get in front of decision makers? So a couple ways. The traditional way is going to be cold outreach. So we're talking about LinkedIn. We're talking about a LinkedIn DM. We're talking about email, sending a cold email. We're talking about like Facebook message. So having a systematic approach to outreach. So someone might send out an email, same thing, one email here, one email there, but add some consistency to it. So let's say I want to send out 100 emails per week. I'm going to do that no matter what. I'm going to send out 100 LinkedIn messages per week. So number one is using those channels. Another very unique way that people aren't thinking about is being the host of the party. So let's say you have a decision maker that's very hard to get to. Like let's say it's an executive, right? A CEO. So how can you attract that person? How can you be the host of the party to where they want to show up to your party? So it could be a networking event, right? Maybe you host a networking event where you invite them to come network. Maybe you invite them to a panel. Maybe you host a little panel discussion where you invite 5, really influential people who are very, very knowledgeable in their topic. You can invite them to a panel and they're going to feel very flattered to be invited to that panel and talk about what they know and their expertise. You can invite them to a podcast, like let's say you started a podcast and you can invite those decision makers to just talk to you. Like, hey, can you talk about your business? So those are some very unique and creative ways to reach out to people, to reach out to decision makers, is host a party and then invite them to the party, whether it be in the form of podcasting, a panel discussion, or a networking event. Okay, how to create more content efficiently. How to create more. So I talked about the importance of volume, right? Like having volume in your content. But how do you create volume in an efficient way? And so one of the most efficient ways to create content is going to be creating a long form piece of content. Okay, and long form, I mean 30 minutes to 1 hour. 30 minutes to 1 hour piece of content. So it can be an interview, it could be a class like I'm doing here, it could be a Q&A session, something that is long. And so then afterwards, you would put it into an AI tool like Dummy, I just mentioned, and it'll clip up that long form within minutes. And so from that hour, I now have, let's say, 15 to 20 different posts, videos that I can post on social media. So 1 hour equals 15 posts. That's pretty efficient as far as creating content goes. And so that's what I found to work really well. So the key is, or the question is, how can you create a long form piece of content? What would that look like for your business? So if let's say you are a health and wellness person, maybe you do a 1 hour health and wellness podcast where you interview a doctor or you interview an influencer, and you have them talk about best ways they can be, for people to be healthy, and exercise, that sort of thing. Maybe you're in the IT space, right? And you want to create content to reach decision makers within the IT space. Maybe it's inviting an IT director or CEO to a podcast and talk about their business and challenges they faced and how they were able to overcome it, right? So that could be one. Or maybe you do a class like I am here, where I'm going over AI and marketing, and so now after this class, I'm going to chop this 1 hour recording into 15 to 20 different videos using AI. So that's a way that you can be very efficient with creating content. Okay, how to generate leads. So there's many ways to generate leads. First is more organic. So organic ways to generate leads is like very low cost, maybe time-based, like you're spending your time to generate leads. This is your typical cold outreach, like email marketing, LinkedIn marketing, sending people DMs, you're cold calling people, you're posting on social media, organic content. So that's one way you can generate leads. The other way is going to be through paid advertising. And so paid advertising is going to be paying a platform. So let's say Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok, money, so that way you can be seen. And hopefully through that, it will generate leads. So whatever way you decide, it's going to take testing. Okay, there's doing it a certain way. So common thing I hear is, Phong, Facebook doesn't work. I've tried Facebook marketing. Or Phong, LinkedIn doesn't work. Or this doesn't work, that doesn't work. And what I found is that it actually does work, because there's plenty of people that are getting results from it. But it's a matter of skill set. How good are you at doing that certain strategy? And so it's more, how can you improve at that? What can you do to improve your skill set at that to start getting results from that strategy? So, and everything works. I mean, even door-to-door, going door-to-door still works, okay? But it's how good are you? How good are you at door-to-door? So think of marketing strategies as a skill set. And so you could either hire someone to do it, or you can do it yourself and get better at it. By either way, really hone down on first the strategy, whether it's free, organic, or it's paid, and then do as much research as you can to improve at that skill set. Okay, so another question I'm getting is, what kind of content should I post? Okay, what kind of content should I post on social media? So this is a great question, and AI is actually can actually help you with this. So I'm going to use an example. Let's say you are in the health and wellness space, and you don't know what kind of content you want to create. I would go to something like a Chat GPT, and I'm going to type in Chat GPT. Hey, I own a health and wellness business. This is exactly what I do. This is my services. What kind of content, social media content, can I create? Or generate me 20 different content ideas that I can post for my business. right? So you got to give it a sort of like some context about who you are, what you're trying to achieve, and then you share a prompt of exactly what you want it to do. So in this case, it's going to be generate content. And the reason why you want to give some context is because if you just tell it what to do, it's not going to have any content. It's going to give you very generic results. So with tools like ChatGPT and other AI tools where it's asking you for a prompt, you want to give as much be as descriptive as possible about your situation. And then based on that, it'll give you a more accurate answer. If you just give it generic, sort of a very generic description, it's going to give you a very generic output. And so then you now have 20 post ideas, right, from ChatGPT, and all you have to do is just execute. And also you can use ChatGPT to help you create, let's say you're creating a video for that idea it gave you. You can now tell it to create a script around that idea, right? And all you have to do is just read it, turn on the camera, and then read the script that it gave you. So that's how you can really automate and really be more efficient with content. Now, one thing about content is content should be adding value to your potential customer or your potential client. So that's a common mistake people make is they hop on social media and they say, buy my product, buy my service, I'm having a deal. So it's all about them. And the problem with that is nobody really cares. Okay, it's not adding value. So value is what are they learning from your content? If you're in health and wellness, what are they learning from you? If you're in the IT space, what are they learning from you? Or it can be entertaining, something that they can, feel some sort of escapism whenever they read or watch your post. And so that's how you really should think about content. Now, once in a while, it's okay. If you're posting a lot of value, it's okay to then, once in a while post about yourself. And if you are looking for my services, please hit me up. That's fine, but it shouldn't be all the time. So a good cadence is like give, ask. The more you can give, the more you can give up front, then later on you can ask. So maybe 5 posts, you're giving some sort of value or information, then the 6th post, you're asking for something in return, and follow that cadence. Okay, so another question I'm getting, and then after the words, I'll open it up for the audience, is how often should I post on social media? How often should I post on social media? So there's a couple ways to answer this. The first way is it depends on what your goal is. So if your goal is to just stand out from your competitors, then just one time a day is fine. Okay, so competitors nowadays, potential clients and customers nowadays, they're very savvy. So if they're researching services and products, they're going to go on Google, they're going to go on social media, and they're going to search up your company. And they have check boxes in their head. It's like, okay, are these people active? And if you're not active, then instinctually they're thinking, okay, well, are they still in business? Because their social media pages are not active. They haven't posted in 2 years. I'm kind of wondering if they're still in business, if this is just a dead page and a dead business, right? So that's what I think whenever I look, up businesses on social media. So that's number one. So one time a day, if you just want to stand out and you just want to show that you're active, because most people are not even doing that. So one day is just going to make you stand out. Now, if you're using social media for lead generation and business activity, right? You want opportunities out of social media, then I recommend for people to post 3 to 4 times a day. So 3 to 4 times a day might seem pretty daunting for people, like a lot of people have some challenges just posting 1 time a day. But if you follow the methods that I shared with you, how you can create content efficiently, you can actually reduce that time. So most people, they take hours creating, posts for, a few times a month, right? Because they're doing it the old way. They're first sitting down and thinking, okay, what should I post? And it takes, 1 hour later, like, okay, I got 3 ideas. you know? And so then it takes them another couple hours to shoot the video because they don't know really what to say, right? Like they got to redo the video over and over. So by the time they're done, they spend 10, 20, 30 hours creating a few posts. But if you do it the way that I'm sharing with you, where you can actually incorporate AI, it will exponentially increase the output. So for example, let's say you just sit down and you just record a 1 hour interview or class, right? 1 hour. Then you put it into something like that dummy tool that I told you about, dummy AI, and now it chops it up into 15 different posts, right? And so that's 15 different content, and it just took you 1 hour. And let's say you want to take it to the next level. Let's say you take that the transcription. You now take the transcription from the AI tool and you make it into another post. So now people can watch the video, but they can also read the transcription of what you said, right, in another post. And then let's say you take the transcription and you put into another AI tool where you tell them, hey, based off this transcription, give me an image, create an image or a picture that kind of depicts what I'm saying, a summary of what I'm saying. And so that's another post. You now have a video, you have a written, and then you have a picture from that just one clip, right? So that 15 now becomes 45 different posts, and it took you an hour to create, and you just input it into AI tools that will basically generate the type of content you want. So it does seem daunting at first, but if you break it down backwards, how can I use these AI tools now to help increase efficiency and reduce the time it takes me? And so that 45 posts will last you for quite a while. And if you just want to create more, then you can. You just do a second interview or second class or a second long form video. And so because it's hard, because it's difficult, I mean, it's going to take some time to ramp up to that in the beginning, because it's, most people are not posting 3 to 4 times a day. That's where all the treasure is going to be, because it's the path of least resistance. I mean, it's the path of a lot of resistance. And so people would like to go on paths that are easy with least resistance, but because it's not as common, you're going to get more results out of it. And so that's one thing. And then another thing about posting is ramp up. Don't start with 4 to 5 times a day. You will get burnt out. Take baby steps. So if you're just doing 1 time per week, and try to get to 1 time per day. And then after you're at 1 time per day, try 2 times a day and 3 times a day. And do it for a few weeks and a few months until you build that discipline and habit where it's actually easy. So, I post anywhere between 3 to 5 times a day. At this point, it's like normal for me, but it took me a while to ramp up to that point. And I didn't start out just posting 3 to 5 times a day. And then that's, volume is going to be how you build an audience as well. If you want to build an audience in social media, you want to build your following, and it's going to take a lot of volume, but it's also going to take time. And so, someone who has been posting for 10 years consistently, you're going to see it in their numbers that their following is probably pretty high. But the first few months of doing it, it's going to feel like you're not getting anywhere. It's because, you're starting out. But, 1 year in, 5 years in, 10 years in, it compounds itself. The followers start to share it with other people, your videos with other people. Hey, check this out. Like this person is really cool. You should. And that happens as you increase more followers. There's a compounding effect. Okay, so those are all the questions I received before this class. I'm going to open it up to the audience. So afterwards, after I answer audience questions, we will go into the breakout rooms, and you can just kind of share what you've learned with everybody and do a little bit of networking. So yeah, any questions, you can raise your hand, or you can raise it virtually by clicking on the reactions button.
I have a question.
Yeah, Dan.
Hey, so if you're doing like long form content or videos and that kind of stuff, and like for me, I'm just not comfortable on camera yet, and I know I just need to get over it. But I mean, what's a different option, I guess? Is it just get on the camera? Is that my only option? And then the other part of the question, I guess, too, is if I wanted to outsource that part of my business, like the marketing side of it, is it important for my face to be on that as well?
Mhm. Yeah, those are really, really good questions. So let's tackle the first question, which is, the comfort level of being on camera. So what do you do? Remind me again.
I'm a franchise recruiter and consultant. So I match a buyer and a seller together based on what each of them are looking for. So yeah, it's
Okay.
kind of a stuffy field, I feel like, and so I don't want to fall into that category, but yeah, I'm trying to find ways to make it not so boring,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. So just so that way I understand,
Yeah,
there's a franchisor that wants to recruit people to start their own franchise, right?
correct. So I work for the franchisor and
Mhm.
the client. So my services to the client are free, and the
Mhm.
franchisor pays me a commission if someone purchases and we have a match.
Got it. Okay. So your goal is to really recruit franchisee people that might be interested in starting a franchise.
Correct.
Okay, great. Yeah, so that's so a couple of things. Number one is to kind of gauge what you mean by comfort level. So
Mhm.
what I mean by that is when I first started doing video, I felt pretty uncomfortable as well, right? Because the first time you hear your voice on camera or a recording, it's like, oh wait, why do I sound so weird, right? I'm sure everybody has experienced, like, I sound weird. And then it's kind of like a skill, or like kind of get used to it. You do it, like 10 hours in, 20 hours in, a few months later, you gotta get used to it. So whenever I hear my voice now, I'm just like, okay, that's just how I sound, So the comfort level for me has really um, felt better, over time. So that's one thing to think about. Now, another thing to think about is video is going to be the most performing type of post compared to written or even compared to graphics, right? Pictures. Now, if you're still uncomfortable after doing it for a while, you can stick to written, you can stick to graphics, and that's totally fine. Do what makes you comfortable in the long run, but just understand that there's a trade-off that, videos, you're still jeopardizing effectiveness or performance. So think of it that way. Now, as far as what type of content you can create, I mean, you can create audio, right? You don't have to do video. You can still do audio, like just turn off the camera and just talk, right? That's another format that people like to do, like podcasts. Um, or you can just do written. You can just write. If you really like to write, you can write out different ideas or even have ChatGPT do it for you, right? So those are some things to think about is, is comfort, is it something that just over time you'll feel more comfortable, or is it just in the long run, even after trying that, you still feel uncomfortable? I would say give it a try first for a while and commit to a certain amount of time. And then secondly is, okay, if you still feel uncomfortable, what are some other avenues that you can do to create content, whether it be audio or written? So that's one thing to think about. Then as far as like what kind of content, and kind of make it less boring, I would kind of do a deep dive of the psychology of your potential clients, the franchisee, and just kind of gut instinct. They are they have entrepreneurial tendencies, right? So they want to start something, but they're not completely like at the same place as a startup founder, right? Where they're like super entrepreneurial and they like to start ideas and they're ready to jump in quick. Franchisees are more like, hey, I'm a little entrepreneurial, but I need some guidance. Give me some structure still. So then you can talk about that. Like, hey, here are some common feelings. Do you feel a little entrepreneurial, but you need some structure? You can talk about that feeling and how you understand that feeling. That could be, a podcast episode. You can look in forums and see on Reddit, like people that are debating about starting a franchise, right? Quora is another great place, like, hey, should I start a franchise? Should I start a business? Right? There's plenty of those questions, and see what people are asking and how you can deliver value to those people through content. You can even interview some of the franchisors, and talk about, the process and how that works. And what are some common mistakes that they see, or what are some objections that they hear from franchisees, just there's many different ways to go about it, but those are some ideas. And then of course, ChatGPT would be your best friend as well. And then your second question, remind me again, what was your second question?
So if I was gonna outsource, if I was thinking about outsourcing the marketing piece, someone to do this for me, is that a good idea? Or is that like, the people need to see my face in the business, or does it really matter?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's going to be a trade-off. So the person's face is always going to perform at the highest level, because people trust a face more than they trust a logo that a graphic designer created,
Right.
And so that's why I'm so upfront about my personal brand. And I named my company Phong Vo Media, is because I was comfortable with that, with putting my face on the company, and I know that it's going to perform better. Now, I know that some people just don't want that sort of spotlight, or are not comfortable with that spotlight, or just comfortable talking about themselves, and that's totally fine, and I'm empathetic to that. And so if that's the case for you, then you can still post from your business in like a company, from the company. It's just not going to be as effective as a personal brand, but it can still be done. I mean, Nike is, you think of Nike, you think of Amazon, you think of these big companies. Elon Musk is a great example of more of like a personal brand, right? Like he puts himself out there for better or for worse.
Yeah.
And then his companies get the spotlight. Tesla is doing really well, SpaceX going big, Neuralink is getting some traction, Twitter, right? So he's more of like a face first, his face versus companies. And something like an Apple, Tim Cook doesn't really put himself out there too much, right? He's more like, hey, let's focus on Apple as a product and Apple as a company. So you can do whatever makes you feel comfortable. That's how I would look at that.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, I mean, based off of what I said, do you feel comfortable putting your, face out there? Do you, what are you thinking?
I think that I get in my own head. And so I'm all concerned that, that I need to fix everything around me, and I need to look perfect, and, all of the things, and, oh gosh, you can see all my wrinkles, and you know what I mean? So I get in my own head in regards to that. So, but, I certainly know my subject matter and all of that. So I'm very comfortable. I'm comfortable up in front of a classroom and talking to people and that kind of stuff. It's just that in this role that I'm in now, I don't do that. So, yeah, it's very different. And so I would need to get on video and do that. And it's very, just, yeah, it's going to take some getting used to.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. We kind of get into our own heads. And I was definitely into my own head when I first started. I sometimes do get to my own head as well. But it's a lot less, than where I first started. And so that's usually the biggest hump that people need to get over, is getting in your own head. And it's a level of like, what people think. There's that element too, like what do people think about how I look? What do people think about my surroundings, my wrinkles, my hair, that sort of thing, my facial hair. So it's, yeah, it's mainly in our own head, but people just most people just don't really care.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. And there's also an element of doing like like getting help. So like, you could still create the videos, but instead of it's like a hybrid model, right? Instead, you can create the videos yourself, you can create the content yourself, but then you have a team edit it, right? So that could be a component instead of you doing from everything from beginning to finish, where you shoot the videos and then you edit it yourself, or you have the AI tool edit it for you. You can hand it off to someone else. So that's another component to think about, is a hybrid model. So yeah, I've seen everything. I've seen content creators that do everything themselves. I see a hybrid model. I see people outsource it totally. But I think the most effective is going to be the hybrid model, because you get the best of both worlds. You still get to put your face in the content, but you kind of delegate all the other technical stuff that your time is better off spending elsewhere, instead of
Right.
the technical items.
Yeah, I like that idea for sure. That's where I get hung up a lot of times too, is just trying to figure out all the different social media and how to add music and how to get the words in there and how to, all the things. And I just don't have time for that. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.